gonna start here. It's just about 4:30, June 15th, 2021. We're gonna call the McLeod County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just for everybody's information, we got a lot of work to do and we got Board of Adjustments after, so we're gonna try to stay on schedule and move right along. So we'll start with consideration of agenda items.
I have an addition, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
On number 5, so under the Sheriff's Office, I need to add item C, approve yearly agreement with the state of Minnesota for the Sheriff's Boat and Water Safety Program for a grant. This year's grant amount would be $3,587. We're adding it because the due date is tomorrow.
Mr. Chair, move to approve with the addition.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Arnold to approve the agenda items. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda. Any additions or corrections to it?
Second.
Motion's been made and second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. COVID-19, Health and Human Services, Barrett.
Good evening. As of yesterday, Monday, June 14th, McLeod County has had a total of 4,298 positive cases of COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic. At our last board meeting on June 1st, I reported 4,281 positive cases, which is an increase of 17 cases in the last 2 weeks. So if you'll notice, that is a definite decrease in our amount of cases of COVID-19. Unfortunately, we have had 61 COVID-19 related deaths. And for more information, please remember to check out our COVID-19 dashboard on McLeod County's website homepage for more statistics. In relation to our McLeod County COVID-19 vaccination efforts, local public health continues to hold vaccination clinics here at the McLeod County Government Center. We have started to reduce those in number and also in size and are working on our demobilization efforts just because the need is not as strong for vaccinations at this time. Local public health has held a total of 47 vaccine clinics and administered 5,025 first doses, 3,752 second doses, for a total of 8,777 doses administered. Our clinic scheduled for this week is tomorrow here at the McLeod County Government Center from 4 to 7 p.m. and we have 40 appointments available for people who are interested. We can still continue to vaccinate with Moderna, which is approved for the 18 plus population. And if you're interested in getting a vaccination, check out our McLeod County website to register for that. And our vaccination statistics. As of June 12th, 47% of people in McLeod County have received at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Our 12 plus population is at 55% receiving one dose. 16 plus population is at 58% receiving at least one dose. And our 65 plus population is at 87% receiving at least one dose. Those percentages have gone up about 1 or 2% over the last 2 weeks, so slowly climbing.
Barrett, Mr. Chair, Barrett, real quick. Obviously, the first dose number is higher than the second dose. People have, for whatever reason, decided not to come get the second dose. As we start to demobilize our vaccination clinics, how will that? Do you see any problems with that? If somebody changes their mind and all of a sudden, they're still gonna be able to schedule through you, or you'll be able to help them find pharmacy or someone that can help them out. Is that accurate?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, yes, great question. When we order our doses, we automatically get the second doses, so we will always have enough to do second doses. We're sending reminders. Most of our clinics now are for second doses, and so if people can't get a second dose with us, or forget, or just for some reason aren't able to, they could go to another provider. In the same token, there have been some migrant workers that have come to work for Seneca and received a first dose where they previously lived, and then we've helped them get that second dose.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you.
yes, thank you.
Barrett, I have a question. I don't have my calculator here, and it wouldn't do me any good if I did, I don't think. But do you have a way to figure out what the total percentage is instead of a breakdown? I mean, you hear the governor always talks about the whole number. He doesn't talk about the breakdown, so
Mr. Chair, so for McLeod County, we're at 47%.
that is the total number,
That's the
including
total.
all? Okay. And how accurate is that? So I had someone ask me and I didn't have an answer. If like veterans or whatever go to St. Cloud or wherever they get their shot, how is that reflected back to McLeod County? I mean, how do you know? Is that reported back to you through some website, or how do you know who's all vaccinated in McLeod?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it is tracked in a system. When you mentioned the veteran system doesn't have to necessarily report in the same system that we use. So the statistics aren't perfect.
Okay.
And there could be a couple days lag. But even if you go someplace outside of your county, it's tracked by your residents.
Okay.
So if you go to Stearns County and get your vaccine, the numbers still come back to us.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Barrett?
Thank you.
Thank you, Barrett.
Thank you.
Have a nice afternoon. Administration, Sheila, do you have anything?
I do, thank you. My update this meeting is focused on summarizing where we're at with the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. So being allocated to the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, we continue to learn a little bit more about this funding and have also met with the counties in our district to learn more about intentions of funding in the area. So our state association, the Association of Minnesota Counties, put a strong focus on learning about collaboration and collective efforts before moving forward with funding plans. Meaning that if our county is going to do the same project as townships or cities and maybe a connecting county, that we should look into that service and see what can be bought together. Maybe the consulting fees could be combined or something like that, and making sure that we're using resources intelligently across lines. On June 3rd, we had a meeting at the McLeod County Fairgrounds with our townships and cities. It helped us learn more about what questions remained. It showed us what questions are still out there. We don't have all the answers. Those of you who are there know that. And it helped us to learn about the differences in fund handling for cities and townships versus counties, because it obviously is a little bit different coming from federal and state. We've reviewed timing and distribution of funds. The first payment of American Rescue Plan funds for the county was in the amount of $3,485,897. It was issued to us yesterday, June 14th. You've been hearing about tranches. This is considered our first half tranche. The second half tranche is expected to be received then within 1 year from June 14th. If the payment was equally split in half, our overall allocation should be $6,971,794. We now know that spending these funds will be allowed through the end of 2026. However, all dollars have to be obligated by the end of 2024. So we've all been hearing that December 31, 2024 date. You have to decide what you're doing with your dollars by then, but you have until the end of 2026 to actually complete projects and spend them and complete payments for projects. So far, we've heard about the spending focus. Everyone's been talking about that. Our conversations with other fund recipients have centered around finding out what the eligible uses are and recognizing the needs for sustainability in our efforts with these dollars. So if we put something into place, how will we keep doing it when these dollars are gone? Or is it something that won't need to keep going on? The eligible uses are outlined in the interim final ruling, but of course that's interim. We haven't seen a final ruling. There have already been changes in interpretation over the past week that helped counties recognize even more eligible uses, including the date that we just talked about and water. Our committee is intent on gathering precise eligible uses and learning more about what other municipalities have gathered or are planning. The U.S. Department of Treasury is updating their information as it becomes available. One really good thing that you can do, if you have a question about how the money can be spent in a county, city, or township, I know for sure county questions, go on the U.S. Department of Treasury website, submit it in their question box, because then when they answer it, it will go out to all of the counties. So that's what they're asking us to do. Revenue loss in the public sector is likely one of the easiest eligible uses to realize, because there's a calculation provided by the Treasury to be used in finalizing that revenue loss. We'll provide updates on this information as it becomes available. We also learned about some ineligible uses and reporting requirements. The Coronavirus Relief Fund Committee for McLeod County was reactivated, you may know that, and will continue to meet on a regular basis and bring you relevant information and requests for funding expenditures to our board. Thank you.
Board, any questions for Sheila?
No, thank you.
Hearing none, we'll go on to the sheriff's office. I see Tim's here. Good afternoon, Tim.
Good afternoon. Just 3 quick items, hopefully, here. The first one is to consider allowing me to send 2 members of our emergency response team out of state to training in Kansas City, Missouri. That training will be in September. Exact costs aren't known yet, but we're estimating around $1,200. One of them has been asked to present at the national meeting due to an incident that they were involved in 2012. And this money will come out of my training budget.
Only question I have, Tim, is do you want just not to exceed 1,200? Is that what you're
That
trying?
would be fine.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Nagel to approve not to exceed $1,200 for the training. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Smalls. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead.
Second item would be consider the approval to purchase a sheriff's office vehicle out of our 2021 budget for $34,338 via state bid from Dodge of Burnsville. This will replace a 2017 Ford SUV that will transition from patrol to jail to replace a jail vehicle that was totaled in a car versus deer crash.
Any questions, or I'll entertain a motion? Motion's been made by Commissioner Wright to approve the purchase. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Luthens. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 3, go ahead, Tim.
Last is to approve the yearly agreement with the state of Minnesota to operate the sheriff's boat and water safety program. This year's amount will be for $3,587. The short notice is it came to me today, and we have to have it to the state by tomorrow with the signature. So that's why we asked to add it to the agenda.
This is, I remember this in years past. This is something every year.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Nagel to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Smalls. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the grant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Tim, is it something that we're always gonna get this late, or is this just an anomaly? that
No,
happened
this
like
is just internal issues that I'll take the hit for.
Okay, thank you.
Fine. Public Works, John. Good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon. One item for you today, we're here asking you to consider Resolution 21 CB 22, which supports the request for 2022 state capital bond funds for construction of a tempered vehicle storage and equipment storage building and a fueling facility at the Hatz facility. The background on this, since the facility was constructed in 1996, staffing operations have changed, equipment's gotten larger, more computerized. There has been more mechanics added since the inception of the building. Regarding the fuel system is the original one. It's been problematic, and we've been nursing it along for many years. So the Hatz Joint Powers Board's been meeting over the last couple of years with the mechanics, and rather than adding mechanic space to the Hatz facility at a higher cost than what a warm vehicle storage would be, we are asking to pursue state bond funds to add the vehicle storage and then an upgrade to that fuel system facility. The MMB, or the Minnesota Management and Budget Office, the capital budget that, or the committee that runs the capital budget process, is the bonding packages are due June 18th, so we're asking for a resolution of support for that. City of Hutchinson did approve a resolution of support last Tuesday, and MnDOT is providing a letter of support by the deadline on Friday. So I will be coordinating with them and submitting that for that project. Hopefully we could, you know, we're hoping that the state bond funds would cover the majority of that. So when you look at the fueling system, along with some internal changes and counting local costs that we can contribute toward that, we're thinking right now it's a $5 to $6 million project, somewhere in that neighborhood. But it's still, we're still vetting all that out. But being HATS, you know, the HATS is pretty much a model agency around the state between the city, county, and state partnership has been a big example for collaboration and everything, and has received a lot of awards in the past through the governor's office and numerous others. So we're hopeful with the 3 agencies involved, it'll be a good project for capital bond funds.
Board,
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
I will move Resolution 21-CB-22.
Motion to consider Resolution 21CB22 by Commissioner Smalls. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing. We're right on time. Look at that.
Mr. Chair, I move to open the public hearing.
Motion's been made to open the public hearing for the purposes of discussion of the open burning ordinance. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now open.
The public hearing, item A, consider approval of the proposed open burning ordinance. We have had this on the agenda prior with the the draft ordinance, and some concerns have been brought to our attention. I would think that the majority of the people in our audience here today are here because of this. And I'm going to go over those concerns and the responses that I believe are from the county. And they'll correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously we didn't get to talk about each and every single one of them with everyone. The first response is rather long because I'm going to read you part of Statute 88, or Chapter 88. So the first question was, what does Minnesota Statute Chapter 88 outline, and how does it pertain since proposed to be adopted with any future amendments? Chapter 88 is the Division of Forestry. Here's what it states. 88.17, permission to start fires, prosecution for unlawfully starting fires. Subdivision 1, permission required. A, permission to start a fire to burn vegetative materials and other materials allowed by Minnesota statutes or official state rules and regulations may be given by the commissioner or the commissioner's agent. This permission shall be in the form of 1, a written permit issued by a forest officer, fire warden, or other person authorized by the commissioner. 2, an electronic permit issued by the commissioner, an agent authorized by the commissioner, or an internet site authorized by the commissioner. Or 3, a general permit adopted by the County Board of Commissioners according to paragraph C. B, written and electronic burning permits shall set the time and conditions by which the fire may be started and burned. The permit shall also specifically list the materials that may be burned. The permittee must have the permit on their person and shall produce the permit for inspection when requested to do so by a forest officer, conservation officer, or other peace officer. The permittee shall remain with the fire at all times, and before leaving the site shall completely extinguish the fire. A person shall not start or cause a fire to be started on any land that is not owned or under their legal control without the written permission of the owner, leasee, or an agent of the owner or leasee of the land. Violating or exceeding the permit conditions shall constitute a misdemeanor and shall be cause for the permit to be revoked. C, a general burning permit may be adopted by the County Board of Commissioners in counties that are determined by the commissioner either to not be wildfire areas as defined in section 88-.01, subdivision 6, or to otherwise have low potential for damage to life and property from wildfire. The commissioner shall consider the history of and potential for wildfire, the distribution of trees, brush, grasslands, and other vegetative material, and the distribution of property subject to damage from escaped fires. Upon a determination by the commissioner and adoption by a vote of the county board, permission for open burning is extended to all residents in the county without the need for individual written or electronic permits under this subdivision, provided burning conforms to all other provisions of this chapter, including those related to responsibility to control and extinguish fires, no burning of prohibited materials, and liability for damages caused by violations of this chapter. D, upon adoption of a general burning permit, a county must establish specific regulations by ordinance to include at a minimum the time when and conditions under which fires may be started and burned. No ordinance may be less restrictive than state law. E, at any time when the commissioner or the county board determines that a general burning permit is no longer in the public interest, the general permit may be canceled by the commissioner or by the county board. I believe the intention of the ordinance is to give everyone permission to open burn within the parameters of the ordinance. Chapter 88 outlines that you follow the state statute and that the county has the right to enact an ordinance. Doesn't mean it has to, but it has the right. And it's typical and common in ordinances to use the adoption of amendments language when drafting the verbiage. So the concern was, how does it pertain since it says adopted with any future amendments? If you look at ordinances, most of them do say that. Any questions or comments with that, board? Okay.
Board, I have none.
Nope.
Okay. I promise the rest are not as long. Concern number 2, in section 4, there's definitions about a recreational campfire, stating that it must not be more than 3 feet in diameter and has had the ground 5 feet from the base cleared, etc., with an adult tending the fire at all times. The question was, what about those that have already been built bigger than 3 feet and have been around for many years? What about those times when a bunch of teenagers get together at someone's house and the parents are in the house? Response, statute defines a campfire size already, so that wasn't unique to this ordinance, to my understanding, and the ordinance doesn't change that. We do not expect any issues that would be addressed differently than before. The third concern was brought up about section 6, general burning permit for open burning conditions, and that the general permit allows for when and how does a person go about burning old hay, straw in the field, or corn stalks as they do today? The response, hay, straw, and corn stalks are all vegetative material. Under section 6, general burning permit for open burning conditions, item A notes, this general permit allows for the open burning of wood and vegetative material only as defined in section 4, and those items listed, hay, straw, and corn stalks, are within the definition of vegetative materials. Anything there? Keep going. Okay. Concern 4, section 6D, burning is prohibited below the ordinary high water mark. Who would know this and why is it in here? The response is it's in statute. Ordinary high water mark means the boundary of protected waters as defined in Minnesota statute 103G.005 subdivision 14. What it means is the boundary of water basins, water courses, public waters, and public waters wetlands. And 1, the ordinary high water level is an elevation delineating the highest water level that has been maintained for a sufficient period of time to leave evidence upon the landscape. Commonly the point where the natural vegetation changes from predominantly aquatic to predominantly terrestrial, and I had no idea what terrestrial meant. It means where it goes from aquatic to land plants, I believe. Is that correct? Okay. I'm sure you all knew. I didn't. For water courses, the ordinary high water level is the elevation of the top of the bank of the channel. For reservoirs and flowages, the ordinary high water level is the operating elevation of the normal summer pool. Anything with that? Concern number 5, section
Sheila,
7.
excuse me just for
Sorry.
a second. It is an open hearing, so if there's questions as we go along, of any specific thing that's said, I'd like to get them right away.
Would it be okay if we waited till the end for
We
that,
can do
Mr.
that if
Chair?
that's, you prefer that.
Because you probably are gonna be real sick of listening to me talk, sorry. I'll get through it, I promise. Concern 5, section 7, permitted open burning in special circumstances. asking, why does the county allow the Commissioner of Natural Resources to decide what they can do without consulting the county first or calling it in? Response, because the Commissioner of Natural Resources is lawfully permitted to do so. That's in statute. That's not part of this ordinance. It's not unique to the ordinance. Concern 6, Section 8, responsibility, states that the open burning site shall have communication and fire suppression equipment available. And asking, please explain in detail what this means. How close? Do we need to have fire extinguisher training? Do we need a tanker truck filled with water if burning off a cornfield? Our response, there's a legal obligation to control a fire already, and that continues. Proper precautions are required in relevance to the size and type of burning, like they always were. The items for communication and fire suppression must be accessible, and I think that's already noted in statute. Most likely a cell phone and proper preparation would be most often sufficient. I know the sheriff and I were talking, it would be, if you're burning off corn in a field, you probably would prep the field where you want it to stop, correct? I don't know what else to really add there. Concern 7, Section 9, why is there only one person designated as the county fire official? And yet a licensed peace officer, a conservation officer, or a DNR forest officer can revoke the burning permit. The response is just authorized responders are included as a designee when providing public safety services. And then talking about criminal offenses are expected to be reported to and handled by law enforcement. Some were saying that they weren't having problems because they were dealing with them on their own with their township residents, but if it were a criminal offense, obviously you would want to call law enforcement. And concern 8, Section 11, penalty. There was concern that a penalty of up to 90 days in jail or a fine of up to $1,000 or both, plus the cost of prosecution, seems stiff. This violation is deemed a misdemeanor, and the maximum allowable fine and jail time for this are listed, and that's for any misdemeanor, I believe. The presiding judge would assess the fines or jail sentences, of course you know that. And this is the same maximum allowable fine and jail time for driving with no proof of insurance. It's not very unique. Do you have anything to add there, Mr. Young? 9th concern, Section 13, effective date. It says that the Commissioner of Natural Resources has the ability to cancel this ordinance. Why is that allowed? Can the Commissioner cancel any other county ordinances? The Minnesota statute gives the Commissioner of Natural Resources the authority to cancel this ordinance. And it would do the same if a township had their own ordinance beyond this. I also asked the county attorney if the county had an ordinance. Can you state what we talked about, where they could have something more restrictive or their own permitting process?
Generally, townships can enact their own ordinances. They cannot be less restrictive than the county ordinance, but they can be more restrictive. So if every county wanted to have their own zoning ordinance, they could do that. They would then be responsible for the administering of it and the enforcement of it.
Thank you. And then the 10th concern, they were saying that since this was sold to the public as free, that it was suggested to add another section with fees and costs, and that the cost would be maintained by the county. I don't have a response for this. The fees have not been discussed, and they're not drafted into the ordinance. The last concern was that they didn't see anything about being required to call in before burning. That's how it was sold to the public. Is that the way it is going to work out or not? Please explain. Please refer to Section 6, Conditions H. It is listed there that the owner or occupant of a property needs to notify the law enforcement dispatch office each day before starting an open fire and each subsequent day if the fire carries over from day to day. A permit is not required for any fire which is a recreational campfire as defined in Section 4. Conclusion, the county board gave directive to administration to draft this ordinance based off of interest brought to some of the board, some of the sheriff's office, and it was from several township board members, to my understanding, I could be wrong on that, and other people. The county was under the impression that many were interested in having a change in the process for open burning. That's my understanding of how this started and why I drafted an ordinance for the county board. We looked at some from different counties. We ended up using the Renville County one as the main model for it. It is not word for word. There are some things that we adjusted. And I believe the adjustments were to make it less restrictive, not more. Relevant policies were reviewed, and today the process to obtain A county open burning permit is to contact the township in which you reside, arrange a time to obtain and apply for a county open burning permit. Looks like this. You've all seen it, I'm sure. I had not, so I borrowed Chair Kruger's. You apply for it, complete the application process, and receive approval, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then the person is required to call the county sheriff's office dispatch to notify them of when they plan to begin their permitted burning, and a call to notify the dispatch when their permitted burning is completed, each day of burning. Permits can be given for an annual basis for specified types of burning, like this one was. The sheriff's office tracks this on a spreadsheet, only based on when someone calls in, and removes the open burn once the call has come in to note that the fire has been completed. So we don't have a log of how many there are for the year. It goes in when the call comes in, and once it's been reported as done, then it's taken off. It includes the day they're burning, the address they're burning at, a contact name and number. According to dispatch estimates, there can be up to 20 burns called in on a normal, regular day, sometimes just a handful, but on an ideal weather day, there can be close to 100 burns called in. Obviously, these numbers are highly dependent upon weather conditions. That is all I have for you for information.
Board, do you have any questions for Sheila? If not, if somebody has any questions for the board or for Sheila, you can step up to the mic and give your name and your comment or question.
Kurt Reiner with Lynn Township. At our annual meeting, everybody raised their hands, agreed they wanted to go this way to get rid of the paper copy. But I do have a couple questions. This paper, we've never had any training. What is it? I've asked other township board members, what is it? Nobody knows. We've had no training. Is it legal? And are we, if we issue this permit or paper, whatever you want to call it, I don't even know if it's legally a permit, but if we issue it to someone, they go start a fire, it burns to the neighbors, burns the house down and kills someone. Who's legal? Attorneys love to go after everybody. When we get, when someone, at some point, they're gonna come back to whoever signed this permit. Who's gonna take care of the legal fees? Our townships don't have enough money to take care of that.
This ordinance gets rid of the permits. Right now, we have the permit system.
Right,
This new ordinance gets rid of that.
right, we get rid of it. But I'm bringing up points of why we need to go with the new one. And I'm asking questions, if we don't go with the new one, what are our legals? Should we be signing these or can we get in trouble?
Well, let's talk about some of the practical side. I think that my office has prosecuted 1 or 2 of these in the last 2 years. One was a farmer who started it, let it get out of control, and it ended up burning down an electrical substation. Well, it wasn't a substation, it was some of the boxes and things, and it was totally out of control. We charged that one out. Other than that, I don't think that we've charged anybody with starting a fire without a permit.
Right.
That's just not one of those things that we need to spend our time on.
No, that portion I understand. I am wondering, when we put our name on this piece of paper, if we stay with the old, I just want to bring this up before we make a decision. If we stay with this, are we legally bound to anything?
Okay, the first thing is that I have to represent the county, not the townships.
Right.
But generally, the mere issuance of a permit is not going to subject you to liability,
Okay.
generally.
That's all
Mr.
I
Chair?
have for right now.
Go ahead.
I guess one of my thoughts was, when this all came up, was that it took some of the pressure off of the townships and the need to call people back or meet up with them, because I knew it was a paper process, even though I hadn't seen it. And I would think Mr. Reiner's, to his concern, would it not remove the liability layer there from the townships? Or
I don't think that there's a liability
not
level
matter?
there now,
Or the
but
concern of
but
liability?
then I'm not on the Supreme Court, so.
I've
Okay.
never, I'm a burning guy. I burned all my life. I mean, I burned when I was at home yet. I burned all my life. But I get my permits and do the burning. But I've never asked I've never thought about that liability, but my question would be, when you call in, the only trouble I've ever had is I did make a call one day and say I was gonna burn, had my permit, and it was a red flag warning was out, and nobody told me it was out, and I mean, and luckily nothing happened, but in those cases, who is actually responsible?
Whoever starts the fire is responsible for it. And if you're burning on a red flag day, number one, you ought to be able to look outside and say, it's really windy and really dry and I shouldn't burn. Because the Commissioner of Natural Resources just does the red flag days on days when it's, what, over 20, 30 mile an hour, Tim?
I think somewhere there, and then a certain humidity or dew point level.
So they only issue them rarely, and when they do it, well, this year it's been quite a bit, but normally it's pretty rare. But when they do issue them, it's a darn good reason why they don't want any fires there at all.
And I might have, it may have just been the same thing would apply, it may have just been a warning, burn, or, you know,
Well-
burn warning, but my point is still the same. Dispatch is not required to, I mean, when you call in, it's not really permission to burn, it's just notification of a burn?
Correct.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify.
Your name, please,
Donald Albrecht, with the Township Association. The permit, individual writing the permit, the township officers were authorized by the DNR to write the permits. They were given that authority. I think it was 1992 or what the year was. There's no liability back onto the township official for writing the permit. It all stays with the individual that receives the permit. If they do not abide by the conditions that are on that permit, that's the reason they sign it. If they don't make the call in, the township or whoever is issuing the permits, but as McLeod County has been, the townships were authorized to issue those up until now, whatever we do here in the future. So that should clarify that question. And one of the other things we set up with, we had a discussion with our insurance carriers many years ago, and they said it really keeps it clean. If you're not collecting any fees, that takes the burden off of anybody trying to come back to the township. And that is the reason the townships have been issuing the burning permits free of charge since it's started, like I say, roughly 1992. Thank you.
Any more questions, or go ahead?
Doug Johnson, Lynn Township Supervisor. Just want to make a comment. I think we might be overlooking this and overstudying it. We had our annual meetings. We discussed it like Donnie said. The majority of all the townships says this is what we want to do. We asked you when you were in attendance. We have heard it from our constituents. Let's make this easier. Less confusion. We have talked to our sheriff. The reason is you have these and everybody's calling them in all the time. If we're calling in to the sheriff's department to start a fire, they have us on the list. We've asked our residents, call in when you're finished. Our constituents, and which are your constituents, have told us, we want to do this. We want to save you time where you do not have to come out of your farm fields to do this. It's making it easier for everyone to do it. So our constituents right now in our township, they're asking me, why is this not done? So I guess my comment is we've heard it, you've heard it. Let's make it easier for our constituents and let's pass this thing and move on. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
The only big concern I have is, that's a relative term, but, you know, when we went through this and we were at the township meeting and we heard what everybody had to say, and, you know, we did talk about letting it come back in September. But I understand everybody's been putting their other township people, supervisors have been putting their foot on the gas for us to hurry up and get it over with and move on. So that's why we're here today. So whether we honor that September request or not, I just wanted to point that out, that, that we are aware of that, but we did get pushed to speed this up, if that makes any sense as we go here. So, but that's important, to point out, because if that fact doesn't fall on deaf ears, that we did talk about that.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead,
Commissioner Nagel, you asked me about that before the meeting, and I'm remembering that I missed one thing with you on that. That this, if they were to vote, I think one of you said that it would not be effective until September, but you wanted to do it beforehand to have the opportunity to educate at the county fair.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I'm sorry about that.
I don't know
because
that that was
I didn't-
exactly how it came across. But anyway, I just wanted to bring it up that that doesn't fall on deaf ears. So,
Well, after the last, it gives me, it's a perfect opportunity for me to speak. I was at the annual meeting, and that's what I heard. And I went back, and the burden's probably on my shoulders, if that is a burden. I mean, I hope it's normal and not anomaly, but I went back and we talked to the administrator, everybody was there, happened to be available and knew about it, and the pieces all fell together, and I didn't tell anybody twice what to do, and that's how we got it going so fast. I mean, I don't know, I hope we can always be that efficient, but now there's some that are thinking that we have pushed it, and, I would like to, if there's enough representation here today, that I'd like to get a feel for that. I mean, if, what Commissioner Nagel just said, if that's something you wish to honor, we can talk about that, or if we can actually get this hammered out, it would be good. We've had a lot of staff time and a few meetings on this, but it's, again, I felt I took direction from that meeting. And all I really care about is when I call that number, I can burn. That's all I really care about. I try to make it as safe as possible, and I want to do it the right way, so. Go ahead. Your name, please.
Tony Houseline, Winston Township, also the president for the McLeod County Association of Townships. We actually met as a board and talked about this a little bit, and actually I would recommend we actually have some points that I think that have been brought up today, and then that we also have some additional points that we'd like to make sure that get discussed so that we don't skip over this a little bit. One of the things I just want to point out in the current burn permits is that a lot of the burn permits that are issued during the year, they're good for the entire year. So a lot of the burn permits that have been issued are good until the end of this calendar year. So we have a little bit of runway in front of us here to make sure we can do this and do this correctly. So there's other things that I think that are missing yet potentially in the ordinance as it is today. And I think what we should do is take kind of a step back and make sure we have everything in there that we need in going forward so we don't miss something, and make sure that we bring it back in front of the township as we presented it to the McLeod County Association of Townships in the September timeframe, and then have the goal of finishing this up by the end of the year. Making sure that it's done, so when we get to January 1, no one has to write burn permits anymore as we go forward. So, I just wanted to bring that up, that there are other concerns that aren't in there yet, so.
Could you list what those concerns are?
Well, there's some of them have been discussed. One of them that, a couple of them, there's nothing in there about, if there's snow on the ground, that there's allowable burning. There's nothing in there about, burn barrels. Does that mean burn barrels are restricted now? So one of the things we also talked about, you talked about the cities having more restrictive ordinances. Should this be a rural ordinance only? So that being one item. The townships have been a part of the burn permit process for a very long time, issuing these permits. So some of the thought here is that maybe the township should be part owner of this ordinance and make sure that we have approval, thus waiting until September to get this passed at the McLeod County Association of Townships. The recreational size for burn rings, that's an important one too to bring up. The no cost to residents, that's a very important piece here, that there's no cost, because that's very quickly forgotten sometime in the future when board members change. We talked about the burning of the crop material, so thank you for clarifying that. The responsibility of who it is to notify when there is a red flag warning. It's always been our understanding that it's the sheriff's office that notifies people of that, so I'm actually a little bit surprised, Doug, when you said that. And then there was some talk about the DNR commissioner can make any changes without any say to anybody, so that was a concern too. So, just making sure we go through some of these finer points before we skirt over everything and pass this too quickly. But making sure, having a commitment to get this done by the end of this year. So, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
question for Tony. Tony, what is the plan, your meeting plan as far as the Township Association? Do you do a summer meeting, a fall meeting?
There'll be a
what are
meeting
you
this,
thinking?
this fall in September. We haven't set the exact date, so that would be the plan, to have a final version of this. Would be the hope that we could present on the McLeod County Association of Townships and then get a, you know, we had agreement at the last meeting that, yes, we want to move forward with a more simplified process. But keep in mind, without anything to visually look at or talk about. So.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Steve Reiner with Hassan Valley Township. I've been issuing these for 15+ years. When I got on the board, I was given a book and said, you issue these permits. It's not worth the paper it's written on. I don't tell anybody anything more than you're supposed to call the sheriff's department and don't burn if there's a burning ban. I would support, if we want to table it, that's fine. I won't repeat what everybody else has said, but I do want to make one point. If you table it, fine. I would support eliminating the paper, but my biggest concern, and I know the association, is that let's not suddenly get an overzealous board or an overzealous DNR that suddenly goes to a $10 fee every single time you want to burn. I don't think we'd be here today if it wasn't for COVID. I think this all started last year with some people that didn't want to issue the permit, hand it to people. Chief Schumann sent an email, and then they proposed a $5 fee, and I kind of lit him up that I would be turning in a...
Pardon the pun, right?
Pardon me?
Pardon the pun.
Exactly. That I would be issuing my back pay for 15 years of permits. I've been doing it for free and I don't care. I want to keep it simple. Let's not overthink this. Let's not make it cost lots of any money, really. It's just, let's not overthink it. And, you know, if we weren't worth $5, neither is anybody else. So, but I would support eliminating the paper.
Mr. Chair? Go ahead. Maybe it's, probably for Mike. I mean, I don't want to put a fee on it either, but we can't hold future boards to what they're going to do, right? And even if we can or do put it in the ordinance, they could change it. Am I?
Exactly.
Okay.
And you have zero control over what happens with the Department of Natural Resources. So you can't predict what's going to happen there. What you can predict is what you are going to do, and hopefully common sense will guide future boards and not putting any fees.
Because I certainly don't want a fee, so at least from what I'm hearing so far. So
If you were to put into the ordinance that there can be no fees, a board in 2 years can change that.
Yeah. Go ahead. Chief.
Mr. Chair, just quickly, I think it would probably cost us more to have a fee than not to have one. So, hopefully it stays that way.
One for Sheila.
Go ahead, Chief. Your name?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Mike Schumann. I'm the Fire Chief in Hutchinson and also the President of the McLeod County Fire Chiefs Association. So I felt I have to defend myself now after the fee question. So just to give a short summary of how we got to where we're at, it started with the townships asking for some improvement on this process. And we initially started looking at the DNR's program, which is an online program. That's the $5 fee that was mentioned. And after vetting that out with multiple constituents from the townships, that became obvious that there was some linchpin failures in that, meaning the fee, the online piece of it. Not everybody has that availability. I mean, I know I write somewhere between 70 and 100 permits every year at the station, and many of my people don't have computers, or they walk. The purpose that they're there is because it's to get the paper permit. So, anyway, not to go off on that, but the ordinance that was drafted by Sheila was, if you've read the Renville one, and that's what has been presented from the very beginning of this, is we were going to duplicate and copy the Renville ordinance. It's about 99.1% the same as the Renville ordinance. There's been a couple modifications. One, I heard a comment on the burn barrels. That was a big concern of mine personally, is we're not gonna regulate more than we were regulating before. And even the language that was in that one from Renville kind of alluded to that, to elimination of that, and nobody wanted that. So that is definitely not a direction that anybody is proposing to go. And much of this ordinance, if not the entire ordinance, is based on statute and law that's already in place. So this isn't something that was just dreamt up. A couple comments just in the discussion. From an education standpoint, red flag warnings are issued quite frequently. That is not the same as a burning ban. So even though there may be a red flag warning, that doesn't mean that you can't burn. It means that you need to be aware of the conditions. When there's an actual burning ban, that's when the dispatchers would let the caller know. So even your situation, it was probably a red flag warning, but it wasn't a burning ban. So that's why they never said anything. That'd be my guess.
Thanks for that, that's good to know.
And then the other question or comment on like the recreational fires or campfires, that's in Minnesota State Fire Code. That's been, that 3-foot dimension has been there for decades. So that's not something that was created out of this ordinance. So my suggestion, or from my position as fire chief and from the County Fire Chiefs Association, is I think what's in front of you is good. There's no time push from me or anybody else though. So it's up to you guys what you want to do with it. If there's some items that you feel need to be addressed, then go with that. I do like the idea though, if it's not going to be voted on or potentially approved today, that there is a timeline. I think I can't remember who said it there, that get something done by the September meeting or for sure by the end of the year. So.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and thanks for your comments. And I think there's a couple concerns from board members as it looked like we're rushing things. And quite honestly, I think we needed to get to this point and sometime during the summer to have a hearing to get input from everybody and bring you in here so we can actually get somewhere. Otherwise, these things just continue to drag on and on and on. I've heard it mentioned a couple times about overthinking this. I mean, simply most all of it is state law already. We can't challenge the diameter of the rings, right, and things like that. And honestly, I don't really want to mention burn barrels in this because that just XXX the complication of this whole thing. We do not want to poke that bear in something so simple as what this ordinance could be. But if there's a feel of comfort from those that have attended that we need to take a little more time in order to achieve perfection before we approve it, then that's what it takes, I guess. But this is about making it simple, easy, and safe for McLeod County residents. So.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Hearing what I've heard, and you guys heard my speech earlier, but while I think a lot of these concerns are in statute, Tony, I think a lot of what you brought up is in there too, but maybe we just gotta go over that some more. And where we sit today, I'm gonna move to table this to the first meeting in November, and we'll revisit it then.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Nagel to postpone, is the right word postpone or continue till, table till first meeting in November? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded by Commissioner Schmalz to table till the 1st of November. Is there any discussion?
Can't.
Oh, no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Mike?
Then do we have a time in that first meeting in November when we can set this so that prior to closing this open meeting, that we can recess the open meeting to that new date and time?
Well, while Sheila's looking that up, the only thing I'd like to...
Then we don't have to republish everything.
I'd like to ask too, if this is the case, I know your meeting isn't until September, but as you have these concerns, not just every frivolous concern, but it'd be nice to get it to Sheila, so by the time you have your September meeting, maybe you have a draft that you can accept. We don't want to, continue the next one till January, so it'd be nice that, I think it's important also to the townships to be satisfied with what they have. I did not see any agenda anywhere in this whole process. I'll take the responsibility for actually moving along because that's the direction I felt I got that day out of the spring meeting. And, everybody did just what they're supposed to. I did not feel any agenda by anyone trying to do anything other than to make it easier, if that's the right word, to handle these burning permits. So, if that
Mr.
helps. then
Chair?
Go ahead.
Could we note the continuation date and time?
Sure.
Okay. It'll be, or do you have to end it?
They are going to make a motion to close the public hearing, and they're going to do that by saying that they're going to recess the public hearing until such and such a date at such and such a time at this place.
So
What
give-
would we do
give us-
without you?
Give us a date and time.
There you go. Tuesday, November 2nd. We'll do 9:20 a.m.
Mr. Chair, I move to close the public hearing till Tuesday, November 2nd at 9:20.
To recess. it.
Recess. Yes, thank you. Almost screwed the whole thing up. Recess the public hearing till November 2nd at 9:20 a.m.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Nagel to recess.
Mr. Chair,
Go
I'm
ahead.
really sorry. Election day?
That doesn't change anything, right?
It is a meeting day.
That's,
I apologize. Just
The only
wanted to
thing
make
the
sure.
townships might not want to have the hearing on election, well, I don't, this is 21, so it's not a big deal.
It's not an election year, is it?
Motion has
No,
been
if
made.
If they are voting,
Do it 2 weeks earlier.
no. No, they need time
They
to
need
figure it out.
time to do their thing.
They're doing it.
The motion,
There's a motion on the floor, sir.
there's a motion on the, it's actually on the floor, and the motion's been made and seconded to recess until Tuesday, November 2nd at 9:20 here in the Government Center. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It's also deer hunting, Tim. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have 3 items in front of you today. Item A is to consider approval of the application for license to permit large assembly in McLeod County for the 2021 Winsted Craft Beer Festival. This application was presented to us by Tom Olig on behalf of the Adult Training and Habilitation Centers, ATHC, from Winsted and Hutchinson. This is a major fundraiser in their foundation. Annual budget, ATHC works with 140 disabled adults in the area, helping them find employment and helping to improve their daily lives. This event will be held on the 11th day of September, which is a Saturday, from 2 o'clock until 5:30, and it will be held in the northwest quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 35, Winsted Township. And Tom Olig was not able to be present tonight due to, he had some conflicts with a workshop for the city of Winsted. So if there are questions, this has been reviewed by our sheriff. I have reviewed this. That event seems to go off fairly smoothly, so not considering any issues with this, and this is a very similar request we've had in the past. Alcohol is not sold, it is a sampling event.
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Smalls to approve the application for a liquor permit. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Nagel. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, this is for large assembly. So the liquor license has already been issued for this
Okay.
event. This is strictly for large assembly because it's 500 people. 500
Application
tickets.
for license of permit for the large assembly. That's corrected. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item B, consider approval of license to permit large assembly for the 2021 Woodstock Country Music Festival on behalf of Tracy Felder and James Mendoza, who are present today representing the Church of Holy Trinity from Winsted, Minnesota. Purpose is to raise funds to help support the Holy Trinity schools in Winsted. The assembly will begin on Thursday, August 19th, 2021 at 12 noon and will end Sunday, August 22nd, 2021 at 12 noon. The maximum number of persons anticipated attending is 20,000 each day. The maximum number of tickets to be issued, sold, or distributed is 20,000. The legal description is the northwest quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 15 in Winsted Township. With that being said, Mr. Felder and Mr. Mendoza are here if you have questions for them. Our sheriff has reviewed this, and I have as well, and it seems to be consistent other than the date as past events.
That'd be the only question I would have is I mean, obviously we didn't have it last year, so they need to catch up, but is there any changes from other years? I mean, it's pretty much boilerplate of what it's been.
That is correct. Similar request.
Board,
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
motion made by Commissioner Smalls to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Luthens. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And item C is consider approval to participate in the memorandum agreement to develop a joint comprehensive watershed management plan for the South Fork of the Crow River, one watershed, one plan, planning area 13. And this memorandum of agreement is for us to be able to submit that application with our planning partners, and hopefully we are funded with that grant so that we can proceed.
So moved.
Motion's been made to approve in the One Watershed, One Plan memorandum of agreement. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded by Commissioner Luthens. Is there any discussion? We do have some. I mean, this is the South Fork. Now, this one is this is the one in between. What do we have left? Does this cover everything?
This is what we have left.
This is what we have left.
That is correct.
It's been confusing for me,
Yes. Mhm.
and it's probably something that takes a lot of preparation, and I appreciate that people stay locally involved, because that's important. It's what's gonna happen, and we need the local, and I appreciate your hard work as well, so. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Public hearing, Connie.
Good afternoon, evening.
Good afternoon.
First, I think we have the purpose of the hearing from Attorney Young.
Should we open it, Mike?
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I move to open the public hearing.
Motion's been made to open the public hearing in consideration of CD 63 awarding contract for repair. Is there a second?
Second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Public hearing is now open. Go ahead again, Connie, or Mike.
The purpose is to approve the minutes, to approve the award of the contract, and then I have handed out a proposed findings and order regarding the petition for permission to use County Ditch 63 as an outlet that you heard at your county board meeting about 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And if that meets your approval, then you should approve that. You should open it for public comment, and when you're done, you ought to recess.
So in short, we're approving what we have in front of us. Connie, is this what you, the findings that you have in front of us here?
Let's start with the June 2nd, 2021 minutes. I believe they were in your packet.
Hang on. Is there a motion to approve basically the minutes from the June 2nd, 2021 hearing?
So move.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Small, seconded by Commissioner Wright to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say sign. Motion carries. Consider approval of notice of award.
You are approving the construction contract with Rickert Excavating in the amount of $549,553.10.
Move to approve.
pending the submittals of the contractor, correct?
Pending
The submittals, his performance bond and, okay.
so moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Nagel to approve, Rickard Excavating. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion?
Yeah, I do. Lynn Township, what was the action with the
Yeah.
culverts? Were you guys handling those on your own? Is that correct? Staying with that?
Okay.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
There is also the notice of award to approve to Rickert. It's just a one-page document.
Move to approve the notice of award.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Wright, seconded by Commissioner Nagel to approve the award to Rickert. Is there any discussion? I do have a question now. All the addendums, that stays separate, is that correct? I mean, they're approved, but are we doing the addendums?
We're
I'm a little
doing 1, 2,
confused.
3, and 5.
Okay,
Yes, those are listed in the construction agreement.
right, okay. I was a little unclear on that. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Other items that are to come forth deemed necessary to this hearing?
You ought to approve Houston Engineering to continue their work on monitoring the contract.
So I want to make sure that everybody has a copy of that. I'm gonna pass that out.
Yep.
This is a higher dollar amount than what we talked about during the meeting, so just so the board, is aware.
If there's extra copies, make sure that Lynn Township gets sort of that.
Yeah, I got this email. That's why I was a little bit flat here.
So where was,
Jesus, I'm on here, but why didn't I see this before?
I seen it, I actually did. That's why I was a little setback that it was up today.
Well, this is definitely higher than the 7.5% estimate. This is more like 20.
Is there, can you comment on this at all? I did get the email as well, and I apologize, I didn't.
The only comment I would really have was maybe some conversation with Ryan Freitag where we talked about their construction management. They probably wouldn't need to be on site every day. He doesn't feel like the staking has to be, station staking. It's a clean out, so, I don't know if there's some way that you could restrict or, comment on their involvement in it.
Does
Mr. Chair?
Ryan happen to be available? You happen to know if he's in his office?
I don't think he's here.
Oh, that's right. I forgot what day it was even.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I can't speak for Ryan's office of Soil and Water, but I can say that I had a conversation with Adam, and his indication was that they can collaborate with Houston Engineering on some of the construction management as these projects come forward. But without them here, I can't take it any further than what I've just stated.
And I agree, I could make the same, I have my opinions, in there, to have an engineer on site, or somebody that knows what they're doing on site is almost mandatory for me. But then I find that they don't always put, I've been on the projects too, and I find them playing Donkey Kong or whatever they're doing in their car, but that on their phone, but but it's necessary, but I'm a little set back by the amount of increase.
Well, how can we,
I don't know, this is a lot of money.
Well, 7.5% of the 549,000 would put you at 41,175. What their estimate here is 104 less 36, which puts you at 68. So it's 41 versus 41,000 is what you were tentatively quoted at the public hearing. This is 68,000.
27 grand.
Right, so we did talk about 36,523 because I don't think we were including in the township's portion, but, you know, it's sort of irrelevant. Yes, it is almost double what we talked about.
You don't have to act on this, and you can ask to have a discussion with them if you want to. But you need to have somebody that monitors the contract.
We definitely have to have that. Kurt, what do you think? You're a landowner on this one.
So who's getting the money, the contractor or just the people engineering
Engineering.
The engineering firm.
Engineering, installing engineering.
These have come around to bite me before. We approved them, and actually this is maybe why they got out in front of it. We approved it and didn't know what the extra cost was gonna be until at the end, and that's worse yet.
How can they do that?
You have some comment, John?
I just got one comment, I guess. You know, it looks to me, I will add, it looks like it's time and material. So if you don't want them to do certain tasks, or you only want them to do so much of them, reduced inspection, you can do that. You can still approve the full amount, but it's based on time and materials from what I see.
it's just that, and I know you know this, it's just that number that the landowners were throwing at them was, 40, what was it?
Not
I'm getting
this.
41 grand or whatever, right? And now it's,
It's 27,000
It's
more.
more.
I think that's a lot. That's
Yeah.
too, they should be able to estimate closer than that. The bid guys have to be right on. The engineering firm should have been able to give us a bid that day. That was the reason we were all here that day, to get final prices.
Yep.
I appreciate it, John, and that's what comes to bite us, what he's saying, where they quote a price, and then this comes around to bite us all the time. It comes out to be something else, and it's not the amount of money, if that would have been it right away, but it's just when they
but it came in the
make
same thing,
changes out of the blue,
I would add, there are other firms that do ditch work. Renville County works a lot with Bolton and Mink, another firm that's done that. I mean, I would think you can get another quote for the inspection portion if you wanted.
But we're this deep in with them.
well, can't we just talk to them and see if they can sharpen their pencil?
Right. They should be able to hold to their 7.5%. That's what they quoted.
We do have the option also to, continue the hearing again and do that.
If this is like
have to.
some experience I've had in the past, they left that part out of the contract, and that's what's happened. I don't know if it's intentional, it's suspect to me, but they leave that inspector part out, and then you throw them in, and again, I don't like that, because there's too much blue sky in there. I want somebody to be accountable for and I probably shouldn't say that, but I go out there and I see these guys that really don't know what they're looking at playing on their cell phone. And I don't wanna pay for that.
Well, Doug, so,
And 2,700 would be okay, but 27,000 is
A little much.
that's a little much.
so let's figure this out. Let's table that one issue, right, or one,
We have to continue the hearing until we have an opportunity to meet with them, and figure out why, they've gone so far beyond what they told landowners.
maybe there's a
they would
reason,
do.
Yep.
right?
There
Maybe
might be a reason.
So what
I agree, let's table it until we can have one of them here just to explain it to us.
how long do you think we need to do that? 2 weeks, 4 weeks?
I would think they would be able to give us an answer on the July 6th
I do too.
meeting.
Okay.
That's actually
So-
3 weeks
But
away.
we still have one item yet for Attorney Young wanted to take care of under other business.
Okay,
Yep.
that's fine. So, but do we need to table the individual item and then recess to that same date and time?
So we'll have to we'll have to recess
Till that date, we need
until the
the
next meeting and
date
time.
and time, yeah.
So Sheila, if you give us a date and time to recess too, might as well give you a heads up on that. And we just don't need to see this item until then. It
Yeah.
just stays open, so.
July 6th, I think I already have a public hearing. At 9:30? So should we do this one at 9:45?
Okay, so that's what we'll do with that.
Okay, we do need to see this other findings in order before we recess that though.
What did you say, 9:40 or 9:45?
9:45.
So,
And we're up to other business for you.
we,
Then in front of you is the order that I drew up that's based upon what you heard, what you said, and what you did. You could read that through. It indicates that there was a petition to drain the additional 32.96 acres. The property was not previously in the ditch system. Ditch 63 is currently in a state of disrepair and cannot efficiently drain the property in ditch 63. You conducted a public hearing back in February. You requested that the petitioner provide an engineering study to determine whether the ditch has capacity. You never got it. And the county board considered the capacity of the ditch as required by the statute. The ditch is currently in a state of disrepair and cannot adequately drain the area within the system. Then your order is that based on the foregoing, the county board does deny the request of the petitioner to add additional land to the ditch 63 drainage area because the ditch does not have sufficient capacity to drain more land.
Move to approve the findings in order.
Second.
motion's been made by Commissioner Wright to approve the findings in order on ditch 63, seconded by Commissioner Nagel. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Move to recess County Ditch 63 until July 6th at 9:45.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Wright, seconded by Commissioner Nagel to recess until July 6th at 9:45 here in the Government Center. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Connie, you're still up?
I do have one more item.
Oh, we need to close, oh no, we did, we got to recess, I'm sorry. We're good.
Okay. On June 1st, 2021, the county board approved a software as a service agreement with Tyler Technologies for the purchase of the IAS World CAM Attacks and cashiering software. Following that date, I created an opportunity to review another recently signed agreement and noted a couple items for an amendment to the McLeod SaaS agreement. The items included in the amendment are all client data will reside in the United States. In the event of termination or non-renewal of this agreement, Tyler will return all data in Tyler's possession in a mutually agreed upon machine-readable format. And then number 3, as there was no duration indicated in their Exhibit A of the original agreement, the initial term of the agreement was 1 year. Tyler Technologies has proposed an initial term of 5 years, which also guarantees our pricing to McLeod for the 5-year period.
Chair, move to approve the amendment.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Nagel to approve the amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Employee Relations, Hannah.
Hi, I have two items today. Item A, consider approval of a temporary $125 per pay period stipend for one technical specialist in the administration department while they take on additional tasks due to an employee currently on an approved leave, using these funds from the administration account. This stipend will be in effect through the medical leave duration, not to extend past August 31st, 2021, without further board consideration.
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Smalls to approve, I'm sorry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
I'm watching the time so close that I can't keep the word.
Item B, consider approval for the recommended grade assignment for the Public Works Accountant job to be, job description grade 180, approved by the Evaluation and Personnel Committees. This is not a new position. This is a current position titled Public Works Account/Office Manager, which will be retitled to Public Works Accountant, and it's also rated a grade 180. This is an updated job description due to the reorganization of the Parks and Rec unit within the Public Works Department. Prior to the updated job description, the position was just focused on supporting the Highway Division. The updated job description now includes the entire Public Works Department, which is engineering, maintenance, Parks and Recreation, and GIS.
Move to approve.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Nagel to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Luthens. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
We're gonna skip the commissioners' calendars today because of the time. We'll catch up with them on our next meeting. Sheila, can you do the best you can with
Of course.
time on yours?
Item A, consider approval of the Evaluation Committee and Personnel Committee recommended grade assignment for the temporary full-time position of finance consultant. Job description grade 190, using the county administration budget 01-031. This job is a temporary full-time position within the administration department, and it's intended to review and implement procedures and practices for efficiencies, assisting in our accounting system transition, also to paperless documentation. The position is presented as a return on investment through the efficiencies it will create and the resources it will make available by simplifying tasks and procedures.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Made by Commissioner Nagel. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Wright. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item B, consider approval of filling the finance consultant position internally on a temporary full-time basis at grade 190 using funds from the county administration budget. This position is being requested to be in place for no more than 30 months.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Nagel to approve. Is there a second?
Second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just drawing attention to that, we have a time increment on here that was important to bringing this forward. So.
And it is very important. Thanks for pointing it out. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item C, consider approval of posting the position of Public Works Accountant, grade 180, for an expected vacancy when and if the current Public Works Accountant and Office Manager accepts a temporary full-time assignment within the county. If approved, the current Public Works Accountant/Office Manager will train the new Public Works Accountant for a period of 3 to 6 months for a portion of their full-time hours using funds from Public Works 03-330.
So this is, one thing happens, then this would happen. If it doesn't, that changes everything.
Yes, Commissioner.
All right, move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Nagel to approve. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Open forum. Anyone wish to address the board for the good? Press relations? Karen? Thank you. Close meeting.
Move to close the meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of closing the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is now closed.
Mr. Chair, thank
What?
you. Sorry. You're here for equalization and appeals. I'm gonna bring you to the next room. We have a waiting room. It's not expected to take very long,